Hey there guys, welcome back to another Sports Stuff episode. Today, here I am talking about the AFC South and doing a divisional draft. If you guys do enjoy, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to be notified when I post next. We're on the AFC South. We only got the NFC and AFC North left over to do. So, hopefully we can get that done before the NFL draft comes around. If you guys do want to watch the NFL draft with me, I'll be going live April 27th at 5 p.m., an hour before the draft starts. Hopefully breaking down picks as they happen, reacting, having some fun, drinking, doing what we gotta do to have some fun. But I would really appreciate you guys coming out and support. Let's get open to our mock draft. If I can, let me get our lads open before I actually start. I like to see as I'm drafting what these guys look like. So here we are with the Houston Texans at number 2 overall. So the Houston Texans obviously tanked their entire season. And then won the very last game of the season because, Lovie Smith said, F you guys. If you're going to fire me, I'm going to win the last game of the season. Making them number 2 overall. And there's a lot of reports right now that the Houston Texans are not sold on quarterback at number 2. And they'd be willing to move back. So, I have them trading back from number 2 back to number 8 for number 8, number 44, number 110, and a future first and a future third. Now, in all my other mock drafts I do when I have a team trade up for a quarterback, usually it's not as much as you guys are expecting. But this is a lot of draft picks because when you're drafting at number 1 or number 2, you have every quarterback to choose from. So every team is trying to trade up. But as you get to pick 4, 5, 6, there's usually only one quarterback in the top 4 still left, whether it's C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, or Will Levis. There's usually one of those 4 guys available at pick 5 or pick 6, meaning it's not as valuable to trade up because there's only one guy you can take. But at pick number 2, you have 3 of the 4 guys available. That's why the Panthers traded so much to get up to number 1. This one, it's a lot, but it's not as much as the Panthers gave up to trade with the Bears. And it's about the same draft capital minus DJ Moore. But the Falcons traded for number 2 overall, and I have the Houston Texans trading back, getting 2 firsts, a second, a third, and a fourth, and then go back to number 8, and I still have Quentin Johnson as my number 1 wide receiver. Now, there's reports that the NFL didn't invite Quentin Johnson to the NFL draft because they don't think he's going to be a first-round pick. I don't care. I'm going off my own scouting, my own report. I think getting a wide receiver next to... I'm on the wrong team, aren't I? No, I'm right here. I think you have John Mechie, you have Nico Collins, you have Amari Rodgers, and on one-year deals, you got Robert Woods and Noah Brown. I think adding Quentin Johnson to be your true X receiver with John Mechie as your Y, Nico Collins maybe as your slot in the future. But just grabbing a versatile wide receiver who, in my opinion, is the best in its class is definitely a steal at number 8. Obviously, it's, in other people's mocks and other people's opinions, he's not a first-round talent for whatever reason, mainly because of off-the-field problems. But again, at number 8, grab yourself a franchise number 1 wide receiver. That's always worth it. At number 12, I don't think Christian Gonzalez is going to be here. But if Devin Witherspoon continues to rise, I wouldn't be surprised if he does somewhat fall. And at number 12 overall, I'm grabbing Christian Gonzalez. This guy is, in my opinion, the number 1 corner in this class. He's got the size at 6'1", 197. He's got the speed. He's got the hip, the ball skills. 4 picks, 6 pass breakups in 2022. He is your true number 1 corner. You also obviously still have Derek Stingley Jr. to be your outside corner. You bring in Christian Gonzalez, Derek Stingley Jr. That's an amazing 1-2 at the corner. And a lot of teams would die to have either one of those guys on their team. And the fact that you can get both of them, that's awesome. And Jack Campbell, everyone knows about Jack Campbell, but I just want to make sure I want to explain all of my picks with this. Jack Campbell, he is a Mike linebacker, and this team currently has Denzel Perriman as their starting Mike linebacker. I think Jack Campbell beats him out day 1. He's 6'5", 250, 91.7 overall grade, led all linebackers in college football at Iowa. 92 coverage grade, only a 9% missed tackle rate, which is really good for linebacker, and he had 19 coverage stops, which make him top 10 in college football. Jack Campbell is the guy at number 44. He can become your defensive anchor in the linebacker core. Have the green dot, give play calls out, and see what you can do. Then at number 65, I decided to reach a little bit. I'm starting to really like Anthony Johnson Jr. Anthony Johnson Jr. obviously is a safety, but I think there's a potential for him to move inside if needed. He's 6'2", 205. Currently, you have Jalen Petrie and Jimmy Ward. You need that extra safety next to Jalen Petrie long term. And I think Anthony Johnson has enough skill to be that. He had 53 tackles last year as a safety, but more importantly, this guy can move around. He can play slot, he can play box, he can play deep. He's a movable weapon at safety. You have Jalen Petrie to be that box corner safety already, so I definitely want Anthony Johnson to play more of a free safety role, but I don't think that's going to hinder his ability at all. At all. But, I mean, again, Anthony Johnson can definitely play in the box just like Jalen Petrie in the box slot. So, if you want one of these guys to be a free safety, the other one to be a strong safety, you're not going to lose anything with one of them being on the opposite position. Then, in the third round, I have Chandler Zavala. You guys know I've been talking about Chandler Zavala for a little bit. I'm really trying to get known on these interior linemen because you guys are going to be surprised how many interior linemen go. He only allowed 4 pressures this past season. 6'5", 330. Plays left guard, and the Houston Texans at left guard currently have Kenyon Green, their former first-round pick from last season. But if you move Chandler Zavala to right guard, you currently have Shaq Mason, who on a 1-year deal remaining, which is a very expensive 1-year deal. But I mean, have him learn under a really solid NFL guard who's been doing this for a really long time, and have him learn and become your potential starter next year. And in the 4th round, you grab a guy who, again, I've been speaking highly about Isaiah McGuire. This is a dude who I think can start for you day one. You currently have Malik Collins and Sheldon Rankins at D tackle. I think Isaiah McGuire, if he doesn't start for you immediately, him and Roy Lopez could potentially be your starters next season. And I would love to see what DeMeco Ryans and Matt Burke can do with an Isaiah McGuire athletic freak at the interior of the defensive line. Then Olusegun Oluwatimi, the center out of Michigan. Again, your current center is Scott Quisenberry. Not great that the Chargers let him go. Obviously, they have Corey Linsley. But I mean, Scott Quisenberry comes from the Chargers. I believe he was from Tennessee the year before that as well. It might be a different Quisenberry I'm thinking of. But Oluwatimi gives you an option in the future. He's definitely worthy of a pick here, a developmental pick at center. He's got the size I like, and he does have the potential to be your potential future starter. Then at Broderick Martin, this is actually my first time having him on, so it's been a little bit since I've done this draft. Broderick Martin had a 77.5 pass rush grade last season. He can play either the A or the B gap, so he can move on either side of the interior of the defensive line. Again, just like Isaiah McGuire, I want to beat this interior of the defensive line up as much as I can because DeMeco Ryans loves his defensive tackles. I mean, like, he had an Eric Armstead last season in his entire career as a defensive coordinator. He had an amazing D tackle, and I think that give him a guy like Isaiah McGuire and a guy like Broderick Martin, he can make it work. And Ronnie Bell, again, another slot option. I think he can definitely play more of a slot. You currently have a lot of wide receivers. I'm actually surprised how many they have. But, I mean, if you can get a Robert Woods, Noah Brown, Nico Collins, John Mechie, Ronnie Bell, Quentin Johnston, Amari Rogers, this is a lot of, for the most part, young wide receivers to help Davis Mills for one more season, give him one more season to play out his contract. And then Josh Wiley in the 6th round. Just a developmental tight end. You lost, what's his name? You lost Pharaoh Brown. Was it Pharaoh Brown? No, it was, who's the tight end that went to the Cleveland Browns? I can't remember. You lost a receiving tight end that went to the Browns, replaced with Josh Wiley, who has some receiving ability, but he's a terrible yards after the catch tight end. Kid does not have fluid hips. So if you just get him as more of a blocker, it wouldn't be a bad thing. And then Devonsha Maxwell. This is another guy that I haven't looked at since. Again, another solid D tackle out of Chattanooga. 80 pass rush, 89 run defense. He can definitely be your first and second down guy. And I'm just seeing that there's a trade. I'm an idiot. So, I forgot that I did this trade. So I think the Texans are another landing spot for Mac Jones. Massive trade, obviously. Last episode, I have the Buccaneers trading a 1st round pick for him. This time, I have the Texans setting number 33 overall, so basically a 1st round pick, a 6th and a 7th for Mac Jones. And now Nick Caserio is obviously the general manager of the Texans, comes from the Patriots. Him and Bill Belichick know each other very well. So if they trade back from number 2 to number 8, I think this would be the next trade that happens, that they announce that Mac Jones is going to the Texans to be their franchise quarterback for number 33, 203, and 230. I'm sorry, I forgot about that trade. I didn't see it at the very bottom. My phone's covering it up because I have notes on my phone. But yeah, so the Texans in this draft, they trade back, trade for Mac Jones, and select all of these guys to either start or be really high upside developmental starters for them. And I think this is a really good draft. It gives me an A-. I don't disagree whatsoever. I think this is a really good draft for them. You got a starting wide receiver, starting corner, starting linebacker, potential starting safety, good backup guard, starting defensive tackle Isaiah McGuire, good developmental center, good developmental defensive tackle, wide receiver, tight end, and defensive tackle. Again, I'm trying to go off what I know DeMeco Ryans likes and what I know that they need on offense. They need help at the offensive line and help at wide receiver for long term. And obviously, grabbing Mac Jones is kind of like if you don't grab a guy at number 2 and you call the Patriots and say, hey, what do you think about Mac Jones? Could we trade a 2nd, 6th, and a 7th for Mac Jones right now? Yes, let's do it. I think it's very possible for them. So Texans A-, I completely agree. Moving on, we got the Indianapolis Colts. As you can see, I make some interesting selections. At number 4 overall, I think Anthony Richardson makes the most sense for the Colts. I think Will Levis is definitely a good spot as well, if it was still Frank Reich at number 4. Now, because it's Shane Steichen, who helped to develop Jalen Hurts, I think Anthony Richardson is someone that he would absolutely love to have at quarterback. He's got all the tools to be a really good quarterback, and Shane Steichen loves his mobile quarterbacks who can throw on the run, who he can help with accuracy, help with power as well. I think Shane Steichen would love to have an Anthony Richardson at quarterback. And you currently have, I believe they have, let me see. I want to make sure I'm saying this right as well. They currently have Gardner Minshew and Nick Foles. So Gardner Minshew and Nick Foles can help Anthony Richardson develop while Gardner Minshew starts. And if they obviously suck, they're going to push Anthony Richardson in the start. And as much as I would love Anthony Richardson to not start year 1 and develop, it's not going to happen. It's the NFL. He's going top 5. He's going to a bad team that doesn't have a starting quarterback right now, unless you're Geno Smith or the Lions who can trade up for him. But if he sits and no one trades up for him, he's going to go to the Colts, and he's going to have to start probably halfway through the season. You have Nick Foles, who is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, obviously, who has shown he's willing to sit behind quarterbacks and help them develop. You have Gardner Minshew, who can start for you. He has starter history within the last 4 years in the NFL. I think this is a good situation for him to go to. I think Shane Steichen would really like him. Then at 35, I grabbed Steve Avila. Steve is definitely not the best guard in the class, but I like his frame. I love his base. I think he's really good off the line. He has good hips. Uses his momentum to really push rushers away from the quarterback, away from the pockets. And they currently have a need at right guard. Currently, their hole is at right guard. They have Will Fries starting at right guard. And I think that if you can get Steve Avila at right guard, it would finish off again the rebuilding the offensive line yet again. It would really finish off a really good offensive line with Bernard Raymond, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Steve Avila, and Braden Smith. That is a really good offensive line. I think they rebuild it for Jonathan Taylor and now Anthony Richardson. Then at 79 overall, I do have him going another wide receiver, A.T. Perry. I think A.T. Perry is definitely worth a pick in day 2. He's a guy who had 1,100 yards last year, 1,296 the year before. He has his size at 6'3", 198. He's a deep threat who can really adjust his body well to when the quarterback isn't being as precise as you would hope. But currently, their wide receiver core is not looking too good. They have Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Isaiah McKenzie. No one else after that I really trust. If you grab an A.T. Perry, he adds a deep threat ability to this offense I think they desperately need. Isaiah McKenzie obviously can play that role as well. But A.T. Perry, he's smart. He knows how to adjust his hips. I think he'd be a really good fit on this Indianapolis Colts offense. Then, Riley Moss, another guy I've been really high on. Currently at corner, the Indianapolis Colts, they traded Stephon Gilmore, so they have a glaring hole at outside corner next to Isaiah Rodgers and Kenny Moore. And I think Riley Moss can step in and start for them immediately as a 4th-round pick. He wouldn't really have he wouldn't have any challengers as well. Dallas Flowers, Tony Brown, David Vereen, Darrell Baker. No one's going to really fight him to start over him. And I think that he can walk into a really good situation with a solid defensive coordinator in Gus Bradley. You know, I think this would be a really good shot for him to start day 1. And this is a team that could desperately use him. Then, Jose Ramirez. Again, you guys know how much I love Jose Ramirez. Out of Eastern Michigan. Last year led college football in pressures. And now he's coming over to the Colts at pass rusher. And currently, they have Where is he? Where is he? They have Samson Ebukam and Kwity Paye as their primary pass rushers. Add Jose Ramirez, be that third pass rusher. They had Tyquan Lewis as well, who's actually still on the team. Wow, that's impressive. But, I mean, Jose Ramirez can provide a lot of depth and a lot of security to that backup pass rusher position. And, you know, I think every pass rush team needs that third guy that you can trust off the line. Then, I do grab another wide receiver. I'm not really high on Tavion Wicks. I can't speak, man. Tavion Wicks out of Virginia. 6'1", 206. You know, when he was healthy, went for over 1,000 yards last year. Dealt with a lot of injuries last season. Had a really poor season as well. But I think he definitely has a shot to go drafted in day 3. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if they drafted him in round 6 or 7. But I mean, get him in the 5th round, another guy who can add some height to your wide receiver core. You have a very tall wide receiver room. That's something that the Colts have always prioritized. And they didn't get rid of their GM. So their GM still likes the wide receivers that they like. And I think both A.T. Perry and Dontavian Wicks both match that mold. Then, Desjuan Johnson. I'm going to make sure I speak about him correctly as well. Out of Toledo. Last season had a really good season at D-tackle. Mainly a B-gap guy. Currently, you obviously have Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner. But there's a lot of rumors still around DeForest Buckner. Obviously, I would love to have DeForest Buckner as a Browns fan. And there's a lot of talk that the Browns would trade for DeForest Buckner, which might still happen on draft night. But he had an 86 pass rush grade, 88 run defense grade in all 14 games that he played. He had 29 hurries, 8 sacks. Definitely a really interesting prospect at defensive tackle. And the Colts have always done a really good job at developing defensive linemen. So I think grab the Colts, get them another defensive tackle they can develop. I think it's definitely worth a talk. Then, you guys know Muhammad Ibrahim and Brandon Hill. Both guys I usually draft in the 7th round. Muhammad Ibrahim led college football in yards after contact and broken tackles at Minnesota. That's literally Jonathan Taylor. Get a Jonathan Taylor backup. And Brandon Hill, he's a guy that probably won't make the team considering how many good safeties they have. But they have Rodney Thomas, Julian Blackman, Nick Cross. At a 4th safety, maybe he can start over Rodney Thomas if he can beat him out at free safety. But Brandon Hill is definitely someone that I think deserves to be drafted. I just don't know if the Colts are the best spot for him. B+ overall, I'll take it. Now, my Tennessee Titans mock draft. As you can see, they do not like my mock draft at all. But I thought it was a really good mock draft. I don't know why they hate it so much, man. Let me go to Tennessee's R-Lads. I want to see the depth chart and all that. So, obviously, the Tennessee Titans, sadly, Taylor Lewan retired. They at least cut him. And I'm pretty sure he retired after they cut him. At left tackle, they have Andre Dillard, which is not a bad idea, having Andre Dillard on your team. But if you can get a Broderick Jones on a multi-year rookie contract, that's someone I think could start for them immediately. I would love a Paris Johnson Jr. more for the Titans. I think he fits their scheme more. But Broderick Jones is still a mountain of a man. Be your left tackle of the future and provide this offensive line with some stability. They currently have a bunch of guys who have question marks on them. Daniel Brunskill, question mark. Aaron Brewer, question mark. Dylan Raduns, question mark. Nicholas Petit-Frere, question mark. Get a solid A pick in Broderick Jones. Then add some weaponry to this offense with Jalen Hyatt. Currently, Kyle Phillips, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, and Traylon Burks are the only guys on their roster who have made an NFL catch on their stat sheet. The rest of the guys have never made a catch in the NFL. So I think Jalen Hyatt adds some speed to this wide receiver core. And he has the potential to beat out Nick Westbrook-Ikhine for that outside wide receiver role that he is currently taking up. You know, Jalen Hyatt had a really good season at Tennessee, but they run a really gimmicky non-NFL offense. So I'm really interested to see how NFL scouts actually rate him, and if they even rate him at all, and if they even have a grade on him. Then at 72 overall, I do grab Luke Schoonmaker. Obviously, they have Chiggs Azua, but after that, again, a bunch of guys that I don't really trust. So grab Luke Schoonmaker, really good blocker, solid pass catcher, and in the 3rd round, definitely worth a look. Then Troy Brown out of Mississippi. Let me go to Troy Brown's page. Again, whenever I talk about guys that I don't talk about a lot, I like to make sure I don't misspeak and put, disrespect on their name. Troy Brown, 6'1", 220. Currently, he does play Mike linebacker for the most part. He had, where is it? He had 74 tackles last year in 13 games, which is definitely something that you want. He's a really good run defender. In the 5th round, if you can get a guy who's on 1st and 2nd down, who you can maybe develop into a 3rd down linebacker. But you currently have Monty Rice and Azeez Al-Shaair, which was a steal of a contract. But Troy Brown, be that 3rd linebacker. Back up Azeez and Monty. Be that 1st or 2nd down guy who can come in on run packages and really help out of Ole Miss. Then, again, I grab Anthony Johnson. I try my best not to draft guys multiple times. But I think Anthony Johnson, this is where he needs to go. The Tennessee Titans would be amazing for Anthony Johnson. They currently have Amani Hooker and Kevin Byard, obviously. I think he can provide a lot of being that 3rd safety and nickel roles. They also have a really good cornerback room. Elijah Molden, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Roger McCreary, Christian Fulton, Caleb Farley. Really good, really deep cornerback room. He can be that 3rd safety nickel corner and nickel packages, who I think can provide a lot of depth as well on special teams. And then Puka Nacua, I talked about last episode. A guy who I think in the slot, back up Kyle Phillips, adds some versatility and speed to this wide receiver room. Gives me a C+. Yeah, it's not a great draft, but I think overall it's definitely not a bad draft. Finally, for the AFC South, I grab at number 24 for the Jaguars, O'Cyrus Torrence. I think the Jaguars really need to work on building this offensive line to be as good as they possibly can. And currently, they have Ben Barch and Brandon Scherf at guard, which is definitely not a bad pairing. But Ben Barch is coming up on his rookie contract. So if you don't want to extend someone who's like average at best, grab O'Cyrus Torrence. He can be a really good guard. I think he's the only 1st-round guard I would even consider in this year's draft. You then have Cam Robinson, O'Cyrus Torrence, Luke Fortner, Brandon Scherf, and Walker Little. It's a pretty decent offensive line for Trevor Lawrence to work with. But I think that this is really a really good pick for them specifically to really shore up that offensive line for the future. Then, at 56 overall, I grabbed Tyreek Stevenson. I mean, Tyreek Stevenson is a stud. I love Tyreek Stevenson. You cut Shaquille Griffin this past offseason. You currently have Darius Williams, Tyson Campbell, who had an amazing season, and Trey Herndon, who I really like as well. Grab Tyreek Stevenson. He becomes your outside corner, and I think he becomes a stud for you. And Jalen Jones as well. I think Jalen Jones can definitely be an outside corner, but I'd probably have him play more of that slot role. So Trey Herndon, Jalen Jones can fight it out for that slot role. And I definitely think it's something that's worth talking about, grabbing 2 corners back-to-back, because corner is a position that never hurts to have too many good corners on your team. Then Noah Sewell at 121. I thought Noah Sewell was decent enough to be drafted. I'm not seeing him go in a lot of mock drafts till round 5, 6, or 7. I think he's definitely worth a 3rd or a 4th round pick. He's only 20 years old. He's 6'1", 250. So he's definitely interesting to think like, okay, well, he can have a 10-year career and only be 30 years old. That's a lot of time for him to develop, become an NFL stud. He's a blitz linebacker. I wouldn't put him at an edge position. I'll definitely just have him as a blitz linebacker. So a team like the Steelers makes a lot of sense for Noah Sewell as well. They love blitzing linebackers. But the Jacksonville Jaguars, Mike Caldwell definitely does not hide from blitzing linebackers, but it's not part of his system. He had a 73.5 pass rush grade and a 72 coverage grade. Definitely more of that, they're going to throw the ball, put Noah Sewell out there and help them out. Had a really bad season. I'll say it. He only had 40 tackles. Last season had 72, was definitely becoming a day 2 pick, but he really didn't have a great season. It is what happens. It is what happens. But I definitely think he's worthy of a draft pick. And this is a guy that just this like this time last year, right? He was pick 35 to pick 60 was his range. And then 2 months ago fell into the hundreds. So it's a guy that, people were high on for a really long time. Didn't have a best season that everyone was hoping for. But, I really think as a blitzing linebacker, he can be really good. And Mike Caldwell is pretty well known for blitzing his linebackers. But it's not like his main thing. The Steelers, in my opinion, would be the best pick for Noah Sewell. Then Parker Washington. This is a really good guy who, if you can get him as your wide receiver 4, he's going to be a stud. Good route runner, solid speed, and can really turn into a polished wide receiver at the NFL level. And he's a guy that works on timing. If you have a play call, he needs to be at this and this part of the field at this time, he's going to be there. And that's why I like Parker Washington as a wide receiver 4. In this kind of team, I wouldn't be surprised, give it a year or two, he might move up and be a starter for you. So I think it's really solid out of Penn State. Then Broderick Martin is back again. Solid pass rushing D tackle. Currently, you have Folorunziu Fatukasi and Devon Hamilton. Definitely not a bad group, okay? Definitely not a bad group. But if you can add in a Broderick Martin who can just pass rush, not a great run defender, but put him next to Folorunziu Fatukasi, who's a really good run blocker. Have him pass rush next to him. That's something I could definitely see working out. Then O'Shawn Martin. Oh, didn't mean to click away. O'Shawn Martin. Mathis, I'm sorry. O'Shawn Mathis out of Nebraska. He had a 77 pass rush grade with a 16.4 pass rush win rate and a 7.8 run stop rate, which is all in definitely worthy of a draft pick range. 6'5", 250, he's an edge rusher. You know, this team definitely needs more edge rush help. They have Roy Robertson Harris, not bad. You know, he could do better. But you have at 3-4 outside linebacker Josh Allen, Trevon Walker, Clavon Chasen. Add O'Shawn Mathis in the 6th round. He might be able to provide really solid depth for you. And if, let's just say Clavon Chasen doesn't work, gets injured, he's a guy I would trust to be that third pass rusher on a team that has a Josh Allen and a team that has a Folorunziu Fatukasi and a team that has a Roy Robertson Harris. I would trust an O'Shawn Mathis to fill in for injuries and stopgap starter roles. Then Evan Hall, running back out of Northwestern. So this is a team that did not keep, what's his name? They did not keep James Robinson. I think Evan Hall can play a lot of what James Robinson was doing. I think he's more of a thumper. Let me get to his size. He's 5'10", 209. He's a thumping running back. He had 1.85 yards per route run and 14 carries of 15-plus yards, which are both really solid. He had 137 gap attempts, and this is a team that likes running and opening up these gaps to these really good offensive guards, opening up gaps. Evan Hall is to be able to break away speed, to push through them. Had his best games, I believe, against Maryland. So, a team that had a really solid defense, and against Northwestern, who you guys know I liked. Where is he? I liked Riley Moss, Iowa. He did a really good job against them. And I think Evan Hall, in the 6th rounds, be a guy who could play a James Robinson type of role. Now, you did sign Dearness Johnson this last season. Let's pass off season. You have Snoop Connor from last year who played both that similar type of role. But I think Evan Hall, 6 rounds, probably won't make the team, but definitely worth a pick. And then it's Max Duggan, whatever his last name is. He's a quarterback. He's a quarterback. He'd be a backup quarterback on a 4-year rookie deal. It's cheap. It's a real cheap deal. So TCU, Max Duggan made the playoffs, has college football playoff experience. So yeah, gives me a B+ for the Jaguars. I would probably agree with that. Probably go down to a B- actually. I mean, I love the Tyreek Stevenson. I love the Parker Washington picks. But the last 4 picks are a lot of flyers. Guys that I don't really scout all that much, so that's why I was doing so much looking at my computer. I don't have that many opinions on them because they're guys I don't really have scouted. But yeah, I think overall AFC South, really solid, not bad. So we go over. Texans gives me an A-. They get the franchise quarterback. They trade back to get more picks, get a wide receiver, a corner, a linebacker, everything they need for their team. The Colts, they get their franchise quarterback with a B+ overall grade, get a pass rusher, a corner, a guard, and I think just a lot of depth around their team. The Titans gives me a C+. I'd probably go a little lower. It wasn't that great of a draft after thinking about it. But you get a franchise tackle and a wide receiver who can really help you. Then the Jaguars, you get an offensive guard, get corners, you get linebackers, wide receivers. Just helps raise your floor of your team from a playoff team to a playoff team. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you can make the playoffs too. Oh, this is our division. And yeah, I think gives him B+. I'd probably go a little lower, but definitely a really good draft. So if you guys did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified when I post next. If you did enjoy, please let me know. Moving on to the NFC North next episode. Again, April 27th at 5 p.m. I'm going live for the NFL draft. Please come watch, come support, just come hang out, and hopefully we have fun. So I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.